Gary Coleman's arrival in the world in 1968 in Zion, Illinois, was embraced by the group of Edmonia. Sue, a devoted attendant specialist, and W.G. Coleman, who filled in as a forklift administrator anyway. Right off the bat, Coleman confronted the overwhelming truth of an intrinsic kidney sickness, a condition that would compel his development to a simple 4-8 in and keep up with his facial highlights in an unendingly energetic state, even as he entered adulthood in spite of his clinical battles. Coleman's soul stayed strong. The excursion of Coleman's expert profession started in 1974 when he made his presentation in a business for Harris Bank. His ability before long grabbed the eye of TV makers, prompting his appearance in an episode of the CBS show series Clinical Center that very year. As the years advanced, Coleman's presence graced episodes of other CBS sitcoms like The Jeffersons and Great Times Anyway. It was in 1977 that Coleman's direction took a conclusive turn, while the restoration of The Little Scoundrels might not have emerged. Destiny interceded when a chief recognized Coleman's potential. This random experience finished in his famous job as Arnold Jackson in Various Strokes. The show's reason focused on two African-American siblings from Harlem, took on by a rich white Manhattan single man, reverberated profoundly with crowds, with Todd Scaffolds depicting his on-screen kin and Conrad Plague as their considerate, receptive dad. The series spellbound viewers for 8 seasons, first on NBC and later on ABC. Coleman's portrayal of Arnold Jackson rose above simple acting. It became inseparable from the expression, "What you are discussing," is a line that carved itself into mainstream society's history in spite of the difficulties presented by his well-being and the requesting idea of media outlets. Coleman's ability and moxie got through, making a permanent imprint on TV history. Gary Coleman celebrated his job in the hit program Various Strokes' adventure past the little screen to make a permanent imprint in different domains of amusement. Following the victory of Various Strokes, Coleman nimbly progressed into other TV tasks and, surprisingly, fiddled with the universe of film in 1979. Coleman dazzled crowds in The House Cleaner for TV film The Youngster. From left field, displaying his flexible acting ability, he additionally made an outstanding visitor appearance on the sci-fi series Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Growing his collection past the bounds of sitcoms, the force went on into the 1980s as Colin wandered into highlight films, making his introduction in the parody On the Ride track in 1981. In this movie, Coleman enchanted crowds with his depiction of a youthful shoe sparkle kid who finds popularity through fruitful pony betting, a charming story that resounded with viewers. Thusly, he featured in a line of TV films incorporating the youngster with erect radiance. Jimmy the Youngster and the phenomenal universe of DC. Collins is exhibiting his flexibility as an entertainer across different types of at the same time. Coleman wandered into the domain of movement, lending his particular voice to the lead character in The Gary Coleman Show, a Saturday morning vivified series that circulated for 13 episodes in 1982. His enlivened persona enraptured crowds, further cementing his status as a multi-layered performer. The 1990s saw Coleman's continued presence on both the little and cinemas. He showed up on famous sitcoms, for example, Wedded with Kids, Martin, and The New Ruler of Bel-Air, charming himself to another age of watchers. In 1996, Coleman got a repetitive job on the Saturday morning animation. Wayne hit a demonstration of his getting through claim across various mediums all through the 2000s. Coleman stayed a darling figure, making visitor appearances as himself on different TV programs, including The Hula's My Significant Other and Children, and Drake and Josh, whose different cluster of jobs exhibited his flexibility and getting through prominence in media outlets towards the end of his vocation. Coleman's credits remembered jobs for comedies, for example, Church Ball, and An American Hymn, showing his resolute obligation to his art. His last movie appearance in the 2009 free movie Smaller People vs. Mascots denoted the finish of a striking vocation that crossed many years, abandoning a tradition of chuckling flexibility and persevering through ability. Medical issues and demise. In 2009, Coleman went through a heart medical procedure, although the particular subtleties of the strategy stayed undisclosed to the public. Sadly, confusion emerged as he created present-day usable pneumonia, adding to the intricacy of his clinical circumstance. The next year, in January 2010, Coleman encountered a seizure while in Los Angeles, prompting his hospitalization. His well-being kept on decaying when, in February, he experienced one more seizure. While on the arrangement of the Insider TV program, these occurrences shed light on the seriousness of Coleman's well-being battles and the costs they were taking on him. The most basic development happened on May 26, 2010, when Coleman was hurried to Utah Valley Territorial Clinical Center. In the wake of tumbling down the steps at his Santaquin home, the fall brought about a head injury conceivably set off by one more seizure and prompted an epidural hematoma. Starting reports showed that Coleman was cognizant and rational the morning after the mishap. However, his condition got ugly, and by mid-evening on May 27, he was oblivious and put in a coma, unfortunately regardless of endeavors to save him. Coleman died, abandoning a heritage that touched the hearts of numerous. The outcome of Coleman's passing was met with additional inconveniences, encompassing the treatment of his bequest and stays. A booked burial service was suddenly delayed and ultimately dropped because of debates among different gatherings, including Coleman's new parents, his previous business partner, Anna Dim, and others entangled in conflicts over the suitable game plan in regards to his domain. Courses of action add to the intricacy. Coleman's previous supervisor, Dion Mial, at first assumed a part in the procedures. However, entanglements emerged when it was found that Coleman's will drafted in 1999 and naming Mial as the leader had been supplanted by a resulting will from 2005. This later rendition assigned Dark as the chief, prompting lawful traps and further pressures among those elaborate. Quite Coleman's prior will communicated his craving for his wake to be coordinated by people who had no monetary connections to him and who really focused on him, and by and large, the later will went against these desires, unequivocally expressing that there ought to be no memorial service wake or some other service honoring his passing. This glaring difference featured the intricacy of Coleman's connections and the combative idea of the choices made in regards to his last wishes. My dear watchers, next we welcome you to investigate the house he possessed until his demise chateau in rural Salt Lake City. Gary Coleman, the late entertainer prestigious for his job in the TV series Various Strokes, dwelled in a remarkable home situated at 892 E550 ES in Santaquin, Utah. This house is frequently portrayed as a three-story manor holds an expected worth of $315,000, notwithstanding its magnificence reports, which proposed that the inside of the house mirrored a fairly scanty residing climate, as per sources referred to by the public. Inquirer. It's an obvious disclosure about the everyday environments of a once-cherished TV character, revealing insight into parts of his own life that were less plugged among the meager. The goods caught in the photos had all the earmarks of being a whip and 2 counterfeit Christmas trees. These curious things were actually enhanced with improvements, offering a brief look into the idiosyncrasies of Coleman's family. It's a preview. Frozen in Time uncovers a mix of the commonplace and the unforeseen inside the bounds of superstar life. The photographs taken in May 2010 act as a frightful wake-up call to the existence of Gary Coleman drove inside those walls, regardless of his distinction and past triumph. His everyday environment indicates a specific intricacy and maybe even a feeling of separation between vehicles in the domain of the late Gary Coleman's vehicles. A Saturn Sky is about $32,000. This smooth machine flaunts a 2L4 chamber motor, albeit a few commentators note its unassuming influence conveyance, which tops at 4,800 cycles per moment, an undeniable level contrasted with the 7,000 cycles per moment limited contrasted with the MEX 5, one more contender available. The Sky offers more inside space, a component that numerous drivers view as alluring. Its exterior, furnished with discretionary trims, incorporates chrome variants of the 18-inch compound Haggles spoiler, although one is so refined it's rarely apparent in special materials. Conversely, the Evade Slam requires a lot of speculation, around $54,000, yet it offers critical influence and solace. In the engine, there is a strong 6LV8 motor that produces 410 pull and 429 lb-feet of force. Smash doesn't hold back on innovation either, preparing its substantial trucks with lodges that rival those found in Extravagance. Thanks for watching this video.